It's time to talk about the boogeyman. And I ain't talking about Michael Myers or those early 2000s horror movies. No, I'm talking John Wick.
He's gonna get you. 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 The boogeyman is coming.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm going to be ranking all 4 John Wick films from worst to best. These are some real high quality films. Like, none of these are bad, so don't get mad on my placements. It's just my opinion, guys. Let me know yours down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion. And I just love these movies because they're the kind of throwback to the old late 70s, 80s action films. They're just as violent and gritty, but yet they're modernized and they take out all that 80s cheese, you know, that was back then. And this makes for some great action flicks. So without wasting any more time, let's get into my ranking. So coming in the last place at number 4, I got John Wick 3 Parabellum. Now this one definitely has the most action out of all these flicks. It's like a 2-hour and 20-minute long film, and 80% of that is just straight up action. There's very little story here, but yeah, the hand-to-hand combat is some of the best in the entire series. They start to introduce more martial arts into this entry, which I really enjoy. We get great action set pieces, like when he's going on the horse, you know, down the road, and all the guys on bikes are chasing him. Great stuff. He even kills a guy with a book in like the first 10 minutes of this film, and he does it such an epic way. I like the introduction of Halle Berry's character, and her 2 dogs are badass. I don't even know how they filmed half that stuff. Those dogs running up walls, tearing people's throats out and stuff. It looks so awesome. And I really think the musical score to this one really complements the action best. It really just intensifies the action even more on screen. Plus visually, this is where the movies really started getting visually stunning. The neon colors and lights in that really pop on screen. Every sequence has either reds or blues. It's never a dull moment visually. And I do like how the odds are really against John in this one. He has a contract out for him internationally now. And he has 0 resources. He's excommunicado, I think how they call it. So he's not able to use any of the hotels or any of the services that are normally provided for him. So he really doesn't have an advantage at all in here. Just a few things that keep this one in last place for me. One being the lack of story. I could sum up this movie story-wise in 45 seconds. There's really not a whole lot going on. Everybody's just out to kill him. He goes to Morocco, which I didn't care for that scene as well, where he goes to meet the guy higher than the high table. I'm like, it's starting to seem a little bit silly when it was pretty grounded before, you know, going out to the desert and all that. It just didn't really work for me. And the damage that John Wick takes in this film is also pretty questionable. It's like, is he superhuman at this point? Coming right off of part 2 and already getting shot and stabbed and all that stuff, it just continues to happen in this film. And I start to question, like, this is getting a little out of hand. Even the ending, like how he gets shot and thrown off the building. I can understand the gunshots because his suit is armored, but falling from that height and, you know, still surviving again after everything he's been through, it does get a bit ridiculous for me. Up next at number 3, I got John Wick 2. Now, this one is a great addition to the franchise. I love how it adds to the mythology, continues to build on this world. They add in the markers, the blood markers in this one, where it's basically like an IOU for somebody. And someone comes to John with one of those, forcing him back into the game where he thought he was finished after the first flick, but no, he gets thrown right back in. I also like how we get to see Rome, how they're set up and how they have their own continental and all the operations and services going on over there and all around the world. Again, just continuing to build on the world building. They do such a good job with that, and I like how they give him a new suit with Kevlar armor built in. Makes a lot more sense when he's getting shot at all the time. And the storytelling is on point this time. It's just a little episodic. It feels like this could have been a TV series, and each like 20 minutes or so feels something like an episode. He's going to do another thing, and then he's going to do another thing. For example, the way it starts, he tries to get his car back from the first movie that he lost in the first movie, and After that happens, the first 15-20 minutes or so, then we kind of just move on, and that really had nothing to do with the plot. So the storytelling is a little episodic in here, but it's still a great story. I like all the new characters they add in, like Cassian, who's out to kill John for revenge, but they're still friends. You know, that seems to happen a lot in this world. We get that mute assassin who played by Ruby Rose. I think she's an interesting character. And of course, they add in the King of the Homeless, played by Lawrence Fishburne, which is so cool to see him and Keanu back again in another big franchise after The Matrix. I thought that was just really cool to see. Of course, the film is riddled with great action sequences, like all four of these films, especially all the New York scenes and stuff like that. I love when he's in Rome and he has that contract on the girl, and when he's trying to escape that like concert club place. A lot of great action there. We finally get to see a pencil kill, which they talk about so much in the first flick. We had to see it eventually, so that was really cool that they actually threw that in part two, kind of for the fans of the first flick. But there's also some questionable action sequences in here, like much like the 80s. Like for instance, when he's in the tunnels after doing that assassination, and the mute assassin and all those people are chasing him through the tunnels. They're not far behind him, and there's a bunch of them, and they're all shooting, but not one person can hit him in the head. I know his suit's armored, but I mean, come on, he's not invincible. Other instances where he uses all of his rounds, he's out of ammo, shoots his gun away. What so happens to happen is that the next 20 people coming after him don't have guns. It's like, well, everybody else had a gun. Why does, when he runs out of ammo, everybody else runs out of ammo, right? They're coming at him with knives and stuff, or fist fighting. I'm like, that's just a little too coincidental for me. I know this is just an action flick, and that's normal for these older flicks, but I felt like this one series was trying to be more grounded at first, and as the series goes, it starts losing credibility just a little bit. And finally, I'm not the biggest fan of this villain here. He's the type of guy who uses his money and power instead of actually being intimidating on his own. Like when John Wick is near him and that he's running like a little baby. And I was like, that he's not very scary or intimidating as a villain. I get he's using his money and his power, his influences for to try to take out John, but when it's just one-on-one, he's really nothing. However, I really do like the ending of this flick, how it sets up this big epic part 3 that we're about to get after 2, where his contract goes international and he only has 1 hour to get his affairs in order before everybody's out to kill him. And just the way everybody's staring at him that at the end of the second movie here, it just really sets up for an epic next movie. Like it gets you like pumped up to watch part 3, which is always great. Up next at number 2, I got the brand new John Wick Chapter 4. Damn, these sequels just keep getting better. Great friggin' flick. It's visually stunning again, just like part 3. They keep continuing to up their cinematography, their lighting, their set designs all look freaking fantastic. We get that really cool action sequence where it's all filmed from above, and it's almost like watching a 2D video game. You can see John go through all the rooms in that. I thought that was just really clever. I love how this franchise is always pushing the boundaries with its cinematography. We get a great addition of new characters, probably my favorite in the series, with Mr. Kane, the blind guy, who is no joke. I mean, he can take on anybody with a sword or a gun. It's just incredible. And he has a real connection with John. And you know it's not personal. It's all business. And I love their interactions that they have. And I also love that other assassin called Nobody. He calls himself Mr. Nobody. The guy with his dog. There's always a dog in every one of these films, for better or worse. But they always kind of seamlessly put that in their storyline, and it just works. And he's a great character, you know. I love that he's waiting to kill John. He's like, no, you're not worth enough yet. So he'll protect him for a bit until the price goes higher on his head. I thought that was really unique. And our villain in here, played by Bill Skarsgård, the Marquis, I think they're a real interesting new group of people, especially him. He's real intimidating. I mean, he gives you those Pennywise eyes as soon as you see him on screen. He's great. He's intimidating. He's someone you don't want to mess with, which I felt like part 2 kind of lacked that aspect. And for a film almost 3 hours long, it didn't feel like it. The runtime ran really smoothly. You got great pacing here. I think it's because every so often they keep giving you memorable sequences, like the whole poker game sequence. It was something like off of James Bond or something really cool. We got John Wick, that big mobster guy with the teeth, and Nobody and Mr. Kane. You got 4 people there, all trying to get John Wick. John Wick's just trying to survive it. And it's such a really cool sequence. Like I said, you would normally see this type of thing in like a Bond flick, which I feel like there's definitely something that John Wick took inspiration from, just made it more violent and gritty. And this, the fact that the story is all building towards this big duel at the end, if John can make it there in time without dying, I think is an incredible story. It keeps you engaged. I was intrigued the whole time, wondering if you would make it or not, and what would happen when they do get to the duel. And it all plays out in a really neat and clever way. Again, they're building on the mythology and the world. We get to see Japan this time and their continental, their hotel. And of course, being in Japan, we get a bunch of like dudes with swords and like ninjas and samurais and shit like that. So we got a lot of great action with swords. Like I said, they're always moving forward with their action and their story and their cinematography in this franchise. And that's why it's doing so well and it's never dying off yet. The film's not perfect though. I still have a few little nitpicks. I only seen it once though. One being, again, John can take a hell of a lot of damage compared to before. I feel like, again, he's almost superhuman in this flick. It's not as bad as in part 3, but it still was bothering me a tiny bit. Him falling down like 20 set of concrete stairs and is getting right back up. Stuff like that. And the whole way he was able to make the duel happen by branding himself and getting his family marker to approve him or whatever. I thought that was a little out there, and it didn't really make much sense with him being excommunicado and all that. But these are just kind of nitpicks. There's nothing I really hate about this flick. It was a really good time, and I can't wait to rewatch it. But for me, coming in the first place is still the OG, the original, the first John Wick film. It's the most simple in its story, aside from number 3, but it's pretty straightforward. But I think that's why it works for me so well, because it has time to build on their characters and their world, while the story is fairly simple and it doesn't get complicated, right? We have a real emotional connection with John in this flick. Right away, he's grieving over the death of his wife. He, is kind of losing all hope. He gets sent a dog from his dead wife as a gift, and that gives him a little bit of light again, a little bit of, oh, maybe I can move on. And that all gets taken away from him. Kill his dog, steal his car, and you're on John's side when he's out killing all these people, trying to get revenge, right? All these other flicks, everybody's after him, but I like that he's the boogeyman in this film. He's the one out there to get you. We're constantly rooting for this character to get justice and to take out every one of these villains, these mobsters. And I like every interaction he has with these other characters. Every time he comes face to face with someone from his past, they're like, "Oh, John, how's it been?" Even if they're out there kill him, they're like, they still have small talk. And that is just so cool. Now everybody's asking him, "Oh, you're back? You're working again?" And he's just like, he doesn't really have an answer until the very end, because really this is not work. This is personal. Well, everything else was business. So he wasn't planning on coming back. This was supposed to be a one-time job. And I just love how everybody's so intimidated by him. And except for that one asshole who killed his dog and stole his car, but the mobster's son. I love how he's so arrogant and he doesn't realize how big of a threat John really is. But his father, his family, and everybody else does. And they're just looking at him like he's a complete idiot because he doesn't understand the power of Wick. But yeah, this movie is just so great. Got great action sequences. Not as much hand-to-hand combat as the rest of the series. It's more gunfires, gun shootouts and stuff like that. But it really shows that John's not a joke. He hits his target every time. Always headshots. He'll double tap if he has to. And he's such great in the role. Keanu Reeves, Who would have thought that he could be back in another big franchise like this after doing The Matrix and then kind of being dormant for a little while? He has Matrix, Bill and Ted, and this as his 3 big franchises, I suppose. But yeah, it's such a cool to see him back as our main star again. And like I said earlier, we got a simple story, but that gives them more time to flesh out these characters and this world. I never mentioned him throughout this ranking, but Winston, such a great character who comes back in every sequel. I love that character and the actor who plays him, as well as Lance Reddick's character, the concierge to the Continental, the guy at the front door. He's real cool as well. They're always kind of on John's side, so that's really cool for us viewers because we're also on John's side. Even though a few times Winston screws John over, but he kind of had no choice at the time. But introducing them and all these other assassins in this world, showing you the hotel and all the rules, and how there's this whole other society that we don't know about, the secret society that are all among us, all these assassins who have their own currency, these gold coins, and their own services and stuff. That's just so cool. And how the cops or nobody get involved, that like they know them and they're just like, working again, John, you know, and they kind of leave them be. They don't bother them because these people are higher than the police force and the government, and that they're their own society. And I also want to talk about William Dafoe's character, the sniper, John's friend, who gets hired to kill John, but in good faith, he goes and protects John any chance he can, and he pays the price for it at the end, which really, this is what really sends John off at the very end. He thinks he's done, but once he kills his friend like that, he has to go finish business. All in all, just a great original film that pays tribute to old action movies of the past while having the modern twist on it. Choreography throughout this entire franchise is off the chain. Even the more weaker sequels, I say weaker, but I still give them like a 7.5 out of 10. They have everything that makes a good John Wick movie. You got the good cinematography, the good action, the choreography, acting. It's all there. Never a dull moment, and it's one of the best franchises that are still going to this day. But John Wick, the original, is still my favorite, and it easily comes in the first place. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 4 John Wick films. I hope you enjoyed it. Tough ranking, actually. Aside from my number 1, the other 3 can kind of be mixed around at this point. They're very close in the rating, but number 1 is a clear winner for me. Such a consistent franchise, though. So good. And they're going to continue making these. You know, we got a spin-off called Ballerina, I think another spin-off, and I think John Wick 5's in pre-production. So there will be more movies to come. I'll be back with other rankings, guys. So until then, I hope you enjoy yourself. You can follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd. Drop your rankings down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.